They do spend money. Robert Taylor.
Oh, hello again, another rodeo. I was the county council's attorney when they accepted the property from the former owner about 5 years ago. And I placed the environmental insurance policy they have on it. It's kind of unusual insurance, and you don't get it by going to State Farm. The premium, I think, was over $100,000, as I recall. It would not cover any pollution that might happen at this event. It would only cover what was there to begin with when they acquired the property. But anyway, there's no question. I've sent you information, I think, on the zoning code. There's not a doubt in my mind that this violates the zoning code. It is not sheltered or shielded by the provision that pertains to property owned by the county, because it is clearly not a public purpose event. It's a private event by a company, firm, for profit, that is a lessee or tenant of this property for those events. That's absolutely clear. Now, you're going to hear from Giordano. I mean, this is another Giordano juke job that she's famous for. And she's going to come up with some cases where, yeah, there have been some issues along the public purpose. There are cases. And there are cases, there's one in particular, where state property was leased to a nonprofit to house and educate children who were in need of supervision. And that was done pursuant to a provision by the General Assembly that they wanted that to happen. They wanted private firms to come in and operate on state property. That was held to be a public purpose. This is nothing of the kind. You can go on the internet. I think I sent you all from the internet stuff by Livewire. It's obviously not a public type event. As somebody pointed out, $95 just to get in, and you have to have a Jeep or some sort of a four-wheel drive vehicle. It's essentially a kind of welfare for the wealthy, if you want to look at it that way. But anyway, if something violates the zoning code, the code is absolutely clear. The city has to do something about it. And this is going to happen, this first event, in just a few weeks. So you need to get going on it. I will say this in conclusion. For once, it feels like I'm preaching to the choir here. I think you all know what I mean. But anyway, don't let any grass grow under your feet on this one. This needs to be shut down, PDQ.
Thank you. And please forgive me, Mikhail Dalin?
Close. Mikhail Darling.
Mikhail Darling.
Okay. Mikhail Darlene. I also live in Chow Hills, and I wanted to say we have, I guess you might call it a flock of wild turkeys that come and visit us pretty much every morning. Yeah, about 11 or 12 at a time. So I wanted to talk to you guys about my love for this park and the vision that's been held for it for many years. The fight to protect our most precious natural resources while providing a unique and invaluable park at Conley Mill has roots stretching back to 2017. In a letter that year, the Natural Resource Conservation Advisory Committee stated, providing enjoyment and use of the property with a low-impact development plan would not only provide additional recreation opportunities for the county, but equally as important, a way to provide protection for the Paleo Channel aquifer and the headwaters of the Wacomico River. Since acquiring the property in 2019, Wacomico County's commitment to a low-impact park has been unwavering. The project has been listed on every capital improvement program since its donation in 2019, and it was included in the Tri-County Council Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy as a specific project to reach Goal 4 of vibrant communities in 2022 through 2024. However, these plans have only changed since 2023 September, when the county executive signed this MOU with no public input, county council approval, or consultation with the NRCAC after their direct advice on the donation of the property. Environmental groups right now are voicing strong opposition. The Wacomico Environmental Trust is actively opposing the off-road events with a citizen petition and a formal letter to local government leaders. The NRCAC is also reaffirming their original position, emphasizing the urgent need to protect this important place and reserve it for generations to come. The original vision for the park at Connolly Mill continues to be important. When this land donation was originally considered, Councilman John Hall expressed his belief that it may one day become like City Park in Salisbury. He said in an open work session in November of 2017, City Park certainly is an asset to the community. He said that Connolly Mill has a potential of being one of those types of assets. He went on to inform the council that they cannot deny that City Park does not offer something to the entire community that brings people into this community, and that this place has the same potential, which he thought was absolutely wonderful, as do I. We now find ourselves in a place where Connolly Mill Park, a space envisioned for all residents to enjoy, is on the verge of becoming a playground for a select few, and all of this is happening without any public input. We must act now to protect the original vision by following the recommendations of the NRCAC and fulfilling the goals outlined in the Tri-County Council strategy. We can create a park that serves the entire region and protects the environment. Let us stand together and ensure that Connolly Mill Park becomes a park for all and not a privilege for a few. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Campbell.
Hi, everybody. My name's Holly. I'm also a resident of Shadow Hills. I actually am one of the people who back up to the city line, so my backyard also kind of fronts on the woods, and I'm a little bit farther off than one of our other fellow homeowners who's not here, but I really wanted to speak. I think everybody, thank goodness, has some common sense in this room, and I finally heard a lot of things that we have an entire neighborhood who's sitting around saying all these things, and we feel like we're just been like snuffed into the dirt and quieted, and we can't figure that out. But security is a major concern. I was really fortunate to meet the mayor and your police chief the other night and have a good conversation about some of our experiences on the security of this site. And I'm just going to speak off the cuff because we all have a long history of that property, and almost on a daily basis, you've got a lot of illegal use of that site. I could play you a 12-minute video right now if you'd like. I don't think you have the time, but I could show you just yesterday. I heard the four-wheelers and the dirt bikes, and I'm like, let me go I'll take a shot so the police chief can see what they're dealing with. And, sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's young adults, I don't know. But they do very reckless and dangerous things. There's drinking back there, there's four-wheeling, you name it, it happens back there because it's out of sight, right? Everybody who wants to get in trouble wants to go out of sight. You don't want to go to a public park and do those things. You want to hide and do those things. It is an incredibly beautiful site. I can't even describe, and I lived there for a long time before I even walked back there, and I couldn't believe what I saw. The water looks like her shirt. You go back and there are turquoise waters and grasses and trees, and it is an incredibly unusual site. There are huge elevations, big hills. You don't see anything like this around here. And that's one of the reasons the DNR has some really interesting layers of like things that they've identified as far as special areas that need to be protected. The Paleo Channel, I do have a map that I was given of where the Paleo Channel runs. I respect that there are different opinions about the rest of Salisbury being built on top of the Paleo Channel. I think I should say this is actually still a natural setting. It is extremely high elevation. The waters do drain from Leonard's Mill down through the creeks. This is what the property sits in a V. At the bottom of the V are the creeks. Okay, this is the property. These are the creeks. Those creeks run down to the Wacomico River. Okay, and it all runs down. So we know that's the direction the water goes, and there's going to be some, issue there. Back to the security issues with the police chief. You will see an escalation in your crime back there once these events take place. This is not one event. It is not 4 events. It is definitely many events. Okay, there are at least 4 in that agreement. They have been advertising them actively. Any of you can go online and look at this. I won't bore you with it because there's a ton online that you can see. It's no secret that they are trying to make this a very ongoing, it's an ongoing facility goal. It's very clear. So, time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you.
Craig Stofko. And while Mr. Stofko's coming up, I think we need to, I have seen this site. I think you all have described it. I need to go take some time out of my schedule and look at this. So maybe we'll do a council trip with. Thank you, Mr. Stofko.
Hi, Craig Stofko. used to be the health officer in Somerset, retired 6 years ago. So I'll be brief, but I'm going to throw a curveball into this because I look at it from a different perspective. And hoping that I don't walk out here in handcuffs, I actually walk the property every day. I'm the guy in the neighborhood that's always back there, picking up trash sometimes. You do need to go back there. It will blow your mind. Now, this guy that's putting this thing on, the guy's going to make all the money, he was asked at a county council meeting why he chose this site, and he said, it's so beautiful. When you go back there, you feel like you're in Jurassic Park. And he's right, you know, but you look at it and you go, wow, Jurassic Park. It just screams park, especially since Wicomico County is the only county in the entire state of Maryland that does not have a state park. So this park doesn't have to be a state park, but it could be one of the coolest county parks, city parks, whatever, however you want to do it. Go back there. Every animal that lives in Maryland except the black bear is back there. I've seen them. I know some of them, and it's just magnificent. And real quickly, the county health rankings. I know some people that know about those just always cringe. They're out again. I used to have to explain Somerset all the time. Wicomico finished 21st out of 23 counties, so only 2 counties worse than us. And when you look at how they formulate those numbers, we're all right there with everybody else except for one thing. And it's the variable that addresses the access to physical activity. The park, these grants write themselves. It's the only use I ever had for the county health rankings is taking it to Baltimore and saying, look, we need help with this, and the money's there for this. And aside from that, your families, your husbands, your wives, your brothers, your sisters, all of us. She's done a very good job, Julie, a very good job of making this. It's Shadow Hills that opposes it. Nothing to do with Shadow Hills. It's a beautiful property. It should be a park. Been talking to people for 8-10 years about it's going to be a park, and then all of a sudden this happened, and everyone was literally just like, what? And you know, sneaky. If you're being sneaky, you're not doing it right. But go see it and make it a park. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll call Chief Mindshine up for a budget amendment of the grant fund budget to appropriate funds from Wicomico County. And thank you all for your comments. You had me up until the every animal in Maryland, so I'll Chief.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here before you to actually use some funds that we've had for a couple years. Some may recall back in 2020 there was a dissolution of the Wicomico County Narcotics Task Force, where the agencies that were involved in this, it was ourselves in Salisbury, Delmar, Fruitland, Maryland State Police, Wicomico Sheriff's Department. So when the dissolution occurred, the assets of that organization were split evenly among the parties. Our portion of that was $214,189.35. We've been holding on to those funds for useful purpose, talking with finance. One of the qualifying expenses through the Equitable Sharing Program, because these funds are regulated through the federal government, was for vehicles, and we are actually in need of vehicles most all the time with the city police department, just the 24/7 use all the time. It's also a recruiting and retention tool. It's huge for us, for the younger folks, to be able to have them drive as new a vehicle as possible. We are trying to expand our take-home fleet as we go. These funds would be able to purchase 4 Explorer vehicles for the police department. We're going to marry those funds with some existing surplus funds to upfit those vehicles this year. The critical portion of this is Ford which is, of course, the Explorers made by Ford, is basically setting a limit. They're basically telling everyone these vehicles are in such high demand that once we issue all our VIN numbers out, and talking to purchasing department from the city today, working with them, they are actually approaching, it's only been open about a month or so, they're actually approaching their quota, so they can only manufacture so many vehicles. So that's why I'm coming to you ahead of the budget schedule, to be able to use these funds for vehicles and try to get ahead of the cycle, and so we don't get locked out, because we anticipate these vehicles taking probably 9 months to a year to come in. So if we miss that window, we could be paying more, because we'd have to take vehicles that might be left over off of a lot. No different than any other citizen that would be buying a vehicle.
Sure, yeah, I personally, I don't think there's what are better uses. I think this is a good use of those funds that you all tucked away, for that. So thank you, and it's prudent for us to, if we do need them, again, get them while we have, before the price surges, again. So, council, do we have any questions?
No.
Okay, no public comment, so we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes? Thank you, Chief.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
very
it. Absolutely. All right, so move forward to a budget amendment of the FY 2024 general fund budget, authorizing the mayor to amend authorized positions, presented by Deputy City Administrator John Tall. Good evening, Mr. Tall.
Good evening. How's everyone?
Good evening.
So before you is a budget ordinance asking for several reclass of positions and a revise of the authorized position count for the Department of Infrastructure and Development. There is no request for funding for these changes. It's counts and position titles only.
Okay. I read it thoroughly. Any questions from council, or what questions do we have?
No. It's
No?
very easy. Thank you.
Good to go. Thank you for explaining that, and we have consensus to move this forward.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, City Administrator. It's getting dinner time, sorry. All right. This time we'll have an Salisbury Fire Department first quarter statistical review by Chief Frampton. So we'll bring you on up and we'll get you situated and ready to go.
It's gonna get him. Good, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
All right, thank you, Chief.
I came before you about 2 or 3 months ago with the end of the year report. So we're following that up with our first quarter and 2024 report. So I'll try to be brief. We've been here quite a while tonight, but I'll go through it. What you have here is the total calls. There's a little bit of a concern here as the fire chief with the increase. Again, we're only looking at a quarter, so we'll see how this plays out. But comparing first quarter 2023 to first quarter 2024, you can see that total calls are up over 12%. Fire calls specifically up almost 20%, and EMS calls up 10%, which is extremely significant. I'm sure you're wondering why. There's a multi reasons for that. I think a mild winter. A lot of people were out and about, coming into town for different things. The city's growth and the COVID fear slowly going away. And those are some of the reasons that we sat around and came up with. Again, remember, this is only one quarter, but this trend, if it bears to be for the entire year, is not going to be sustainable for the fire department without adding some additional services. So, again, just something for us to think about, something for us to have in our mind moving forward. So you can go to the next slide. This just puts it in chart form. Again, some people like to see things from a more visual standpoint, so you can see quarter one growth year over year there. Next slide. This breaks it out a little bit further into the incorporated districts versus the unincorporated districts. You can see, relatively speaking, it was up everywhere with the exception of EMS calls that were outside of our fire district. So that would be how many times we went to Fruitland or Del Mar, Hebron, Parsonsburg, or even outside of the county. So some significant increases there that we need to definitely keep an eye on, and we are on that. The next slide is just the visual representation of that. Can go forward. And council should have this in your email for. So first quarter EMS gross charges billed were $2.36 million. Collected on that was $711,000 for that. If you annualize that out, it's up slightly, but is in line with what our projections are moving forward. So there's nothing that's out of the ordinary there. And our average dollar collected per transport remained the same as what it was for all of 2023.
Any chances we get that number up out of the billable amount?
The collection
Yeah,
amount?
yeah.
So we have a private billing company that does that, and they vet every possible opportunity for
That's it.
that. Yep.
30%.
A lot of it's write-downs and everything through government.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. It sure is. Huge. And we do get monthly reports. I can certainly share that with you so you can see the different write-downs. I do provide that to the mayor and city administrator. Just a little bit of help that we got from outside departments. 46 times so far in 2024, outside EMS units have come in to help handle calls because all of our units were occupied. The Del Mar number is slightly inflated, and that's because of the flood. When that area there at Middle Neck was impassable, we did alter our response and put Del Mar on an automatic response so that there was no delay in service to the north end of the district. So that's why you see them having 24 calls in the quarter. If you average those out, the gross billing rate based on those 46 calls for the quarter was $51,000. Annualized, that is 204. Again, about 30% of that is actually what we would have realized. We continue to excel in the area of EMS cardiac arrest saves. So in the first quarter, we had 33 patients that we actually attempted resuscitation on. We were able to get 10 of them back. That's a 30%, whereas the national average is only 8%. So we continue to stand out in that area. Moving down, we were very fortunate to have 0 civilian fire deaths. We did have 2 minor civilian fire injuries in the first quarter. And 11 new patients are enrolled in SWIFT. SWIFT is our community paramedic program, that portion of our mobile integrated health that's made up of SWIFT and the MDCN that you see down there at the bottom. MDCN is a partnership with Tidal Health and the County Health Department. They responded on 181 calls since January 1st. And they treated 44 patients in the street that did not require transport to the hospital. So a few side points for them: their conversion rate for patients who called 911 to those that were treated by them was 88%. Their benchmark is only 35%, so they're well over double of that. And additionally, they also provide services to fire department employees. So they treated they saved the city $42,000 that would have been normally billed to Blue Cross and Blue Shield in the last quarter, and they prevented 32 people from calling out sick, which resulted in $29,000 in overtime savings. So they're definitely a valuable resource for the city. Next slide. First quarter property value saved from fire was $32 million. Our fire response times continue to be under 4 minutes. Travel time, which is good for us. And our fire marshal's office. So we've been down for about a month and a half. We had a gentleman transfer out of our fire marshal's office. So even though the fire marshal's office is still hitting their marks here, they are operating, and we plan to fill that vacancy here in the next couple of weeks. But you can see they approved 57 building plans in the first quarter. They completed 261 building inspections and brought in just over $68,000 in revenue. Some of the community events and programs that you may have seen us out and about with were the Junior Achievement Inspire event at Warwick, at the Civic Center, where we interacted with thousands of kids. We did wrap up our 3-month Blazing a Trail for Literacy program, which is our second grade reading program, where we're out in almost all of the schools in our fire district and challenging them to read, and those awards are being given out last week and this week at the various schools. And then we participated with the JC's Read Across America event with City PD at the library and Dr. Seuss. Talked a little bit last time about our partnership with the Wycomico County Board of Ed and Warwick Community College. With regards to their CTE program, this is going to take shape in September. They're already opening up their enrollment for that. So you'll see that. You'll see those students coming to Fire Station 16 on Cypress Street for the practical portion. And you'll also see them going to Warwick for the EMS portion of that program. The goal of this is that it provides a pathway for students to become either a volunteer or hopefully employment with us. There were 26 opioid-related calls in the first quarter of 2024. We did have 2 significant fires, which I'm sure you are familiar with. One was the Red Oak Laundromat, and the other was a 8-unit apartment building in Brittingham, or it used to be called Brittingham Square, Sharon Drive. Those were 2 significant fires, and if there's a lesson learned from that, it's to stress the need for sprinklers. Neither one of those buildings, due to their age, have sprinkler systems in them, and early detection and notification of fire department as well as the suppression would have more than likely decreased that property loss. Our employees did use 1,346 hours of sick leave, which is the same rate as we had in 2023, and we did have some people out on FMLA leave slightly above our 2023 rate, and our EMS response times continue to trend well. And last but not least are just a few personnel successes. Some of you guys may have seen this on our social media. Sergeant David Fippen was awarded a county award by the Wycomico County Health Department for being the outstanding public health leader for the year. So that's pretty significant. Logan Helmuth, who's an assistant fire chief with us, has been selected to attend the very prestigious Executive Fire Officer program at the National Fire Academy. And then Deputy Chief Chris Obarski spoke at the First Responder Conference on Mental Health and Wellness, which is a national conference to approximately 300 to 400 people who were in attendance. And the members of our SWIFT and MIH team presented at the National MIH Summit in Nashville last month, which is a major accomplishment for them. So that's a quick rundown of what your fire department's doing for you. So if you have any questions, I'll take them. If not,
that is tremendous, and yeah, thank you for
they're doing
Thank
great.
you so
They're doing great
yes.
things.
And
Yes.
I'll echo that. I see the great work you all are doing, and we appreciate that. And that you all are continuing to acknowledge the good work that they're doing on that social media. I think that's really key for our residents and us to see what you all are doing on the day-to-day basis and month to month. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Council, any comments, questions? No?
Just amazing and fantastic leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Good. Yeah, and keep doing the community events. The kiddos love it.
They do.
I like it.
I
so,
like it too.
I almost re-enrolled in 2nd grade, so I can be a part of that program. So. Yeah.
I know.
Thank you, Chief. Yes. All right, moving forward, we'll open the discussion to our Spring Chase community concerns. I know that, so this will be a council. I don't think we have anyone from the Spring. Oh, no. I don't think we have anyone from the actual Spring Chase community, do we? Okay. Are you prepared to speak on behalf of Spring?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll invite you up if you're prepared to speak on behalf of the actual community.
I'm just here to listen.
Okay. Ms. Mary? Yep.
And I wanted to thank Mayor Dale for putting this on the agenda today. Yes, I live in Spring Chase also. It's over by the Sniff Ward Museum. In February 2009, the city of Salisbury had determined that our existing streetlights cannot continue to be repaired. They have lived whatever life there was. January 2011, the city budgeted to replace all existing streetlights with a 30-foot Cobra-style light. Spring Chase was also informed that any existing light fixture that failed would be replaced rather than repaired. This was not done. June 2011, funding for lights was removed from the budget. August 2014, Spring Chase contacted the city about having the streets repaved. The city responded that the streets would be paved and lights replaced in a proposed 5-year capital improvement plan for Spring Chase. April 2024, streets are in bad shape. Street lights continue to fail. The lights in Spring Chase are outdated and inadequate for the community. Some of these fixtures are connected with one sensor, so if one goes out, it takes out another one with it. Some of the fixtures are placed too far from the road. Again, the Spring Chase community requests street lights get replaced and that the roads, especially Edgewater, coming into the neighborhood, in front of Tide Mill, really is bad. There's a deep pothole there. And the city had offered to provide the 30-foot Cobra-style light, and that's what we would like to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huner. And the board of directors sent this email to council, and I shared it after consideration with council discussion, and I thought it was prudent for us to make sure we put this on the agenda, and we did forward it to administration so they knew about it. And I know that Andy did some work, and so I don't know if he wants to speak to it today, but I know that he did some research on what this was and kind of what we can do.
Yeah, no, we are just actively trying to, so, everything costs money, so we're working on getting price quotes, seeing what it costs. It currently does not exist in the mayor's capital budget or central item list, but as we have our discussions here in a week or so, it will be an additional item for consideration for us to see how much it costs, and then us to discuss how we would want to fund it.
Thank you.
With some different opportunities.
Yep, thank you. So again, thank you for your concern. We want to continue to hear them, and I know that the mayor and administration talked about this, but you want to add some.
Bob Haggerty reached out to me. We talked at length, and I thought we had put it in. We have a bunch of replacement lights we do on an annualized basis, so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do it through that vehicle. But yeah, we talked about that back in March. Yeah, so thanks.
Perfect. Good. Any comments or questions from council? No?
So, did you say you're going to put it in for this budget? I couldn't hear very well.
He said that they put replacing some streetlights in the budget, so they're going to see if that.
But is that citywide or particularly just for Spring Chase?
I think for a fixed quantity, and we're going to apply them as needed wherever we needed them in order of what we felt like was a priority. Yeah.
Good. So Spring Chase won't. So it's, in other words,
I think there's only 9 out there. Is there 9 lights out there? Okay, I think there was 9. Yeah.
Now go back to 2011. So there's a decision point that also says, are we replacing the entire light? Are we replacing the bulb? Are we doing something on the lumens or the actual whole fixture? Some of that we have to still decide because it changes the cost substantially. So we are going, having heard this, it takes a little bit of time to dig up what those old files were, what that plan was. I think it is a desire to fund it if we can. As you will see in a couple of weeks, there's a long list.
Right.
One of the light replacement things that is in the budget considerations, Jefferson Avenue, that has gone without lights for several years. So that is something that is in the budget this year for consideration. So, but yeah, we've got a lot of needs, but this is one of those things that we will discuss, absolutely.
Good. Oh, Councilwoman DeShiel?
I would just like to go on record, Mr. Kitzrow and also Mayor Taylor, when you do start juggling, requests, I personally feel that as far as safety is concerned and as a basic service that should be provided to taxpayers, that streetlights are very important.
Agreed.
Thank you. Do we have okay, looks like we may have a public comment or two, so if we want to go to the state. Yep, and we'll hear from you. You have 3 minutes.
I'm Elaine Wallingford, and I live in Spring Chase, and I've lived there since 1992. I live at 1012 Bayshore Court, and I just wanted to add about the lighting. The base of the lights have rusted. The base is just disintegrating. We are a community of about 100 homes, and many of our owners are older people. when the development was created in 1988, thereabouts, it was marketed as a development for senior citizens. So I think it is really important. Someone mentioned about safety. We are a community also that has a perimeter of beautiful trees, and it can be very dark there, especially when there is not enough lighting. And I would also like to say that if we are replacing lights, I hope that it's not going to be a mix-match thing, that they would all be replaced. They are all in the same condition, and and the homes are sort of cookie-cutter look. And it would seem that everything that goes with it should be the same, rather than putting in 3 or 4 different styles of lights that might be left over from different communities. And I also had somewhere, this is a little bit off subject, and if I'm too far off, I'll stop. It was about paving the roads in Spring Chase. There are only 4 streets in Spring Chase, and Mary has already mentioned about the main street, which is Edgewater. And this is a question that I have. If the streets were going to be redone, I'm not even sure what that means. If that just means a surface coating, if that means digging up, replacing, does that ever actually involve any kind of look at maybe boundaries of property and surveying? Would that be something the city would also be doing? So I think those are really my questions. I'd like to thank you for your time. It's very clear that you have a lot of people who like to speak to you and tell you what their woes are. And of course, we elect you to take care of all these things and these gigantic salaries you get. I'm sure
Yes.
that's what makes
Yes.
it worthwhile.
Yes.
But thank you for.
Thank you so much. Megan, speak.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Speak. I'm also a resident at Spring Chase, and I just want to piggyback on my community, the comments that have been made. We really need your help with lighting out in the community. I moved there about 2 years ago, and I have a small child, and we like to play roller skating and go bike riding in the community. And when the sun goes down, we're in because, we love to be out and about, but there's not sufficient lighting to enjoy that time. So again, we just really could use help with the lighting in our community.
Good, thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. All right, seeing no other discussion or public comments, we'll move forward. Lot 10 sub-recipient agreement. This is another council discussion. I think this is more of an update. We'll see, if there's any update that you all have for us, and then we'll just kind of keep it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we struck out at the state. We did not get the additional $2 million funded in the FY25 budget, so that would have made the full allocation into that project from 4 to 6. With that, we have shared that information with the developer and asked him to revise his Exhibit B on how we would use the $4 million to make sure it still fits with the intended purpose of that grant. We are finalizing, hopefully, a grant agreement with those pieces here in the next week or so, but the exhibit is going to be the main piece. It is a reimbursement style program, so we want to make sure that there's clearly defined what is eligible for reimbursement before we go too far down that track, so we're working with the developer on that. So he's eager to see it move forward, but we want to make sure we are being good stewards of our funding.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. Just to, so I want to slow down. We moved from, he was anticipating $6 million, but the state allocated $4 million.
The state in the FY24 budget gave us $4 million, which you've all approved it. In the FY25 budget, they had pre-authorized an additional $2 million for a total all-in of $6 million. So there has been discussion on if all 6 would come up until it passed the Senate, but it did not make the final budget cut. As of April 8th, it did not make it through in the final swipe. So that puts it back down to 4. As our last conversation with the developer, 4 is going to make it tight. The initial idea is he was hoping doing 6, but he thinks he can do it with 4. But now it's just figuring out if he's got $4 million worth of needs that fall within the defined use of that funding. If not, then we will have, another conversation on how those funds could be used with some input from the people who granted us that funding. So,
Okay, thank you for that clarity. And just, I think I have one or maybe two more questions. I think in our last actual discussion on Lot 10, Mayor, you alluded that we actually have received the funds for this. That is true, in fact, that we have received the funds, so we are in possession of said funds, and then we're working with the developer for the agreement to figure out how those funds are used. Okay, that was my question, so, okay, good.
we got them in, I think, last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Since last time we talked, we've gotten them.
Oh, I do have a follow-up question. What, have you all buttoned up the use? I know that the developer wanted to use it for some architectural designs and that scope. What update do we have on this? Yes, for how the developer can use?
We're still limited on infrastructure. Design of infrastructure must be capital related, but not site or developer expense stuff, that's related to the project itself.
Okay. But you all are having a good time. Yes, Councilwoman DeShiel?
I have one question regarding making this very specific. I think that's what you were just referring to, Mr. Kitzrow, that when you do talk to the developer, that you have in writing specific use of the property as opposed to like in a discussion, so that when it comes to fruition, it will be congruent or abide by what the city needs and would expect from that development. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm breaking that down into two pieces. Specific use, there is a use, the hotel and convention center, that is, the conference center, sorry, that is the intended use. What is reimbursable to the developer is where we have to make sure we're crystal clear on. We would not want them to spend millions of dollars thinking that's reimbursable, and then they hand us the invoice and we say sorry. So we just need to make sure before they spend large capital into this project that they know what is their cost, what is a cost that they would be able to have as reimbursement. That fine detail can shift hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on that actual definition. We're just double checking to make sure what we end up approving ends up being something that is eligible on both ways. So no surprises for them or for us.
And it's also a reimbursable grant. It's not going to be, we're not going to pay in advance, and it'll be benchmark driven, meaning they've got to get certain parts of the project done before we reimburse.
It's just the communication piece where we decide, hopefully, what we as a city need and use the money, as you were saying correctly, that he's clear that I think it's Hotel Convention Center is what happens at the end result, not something that is changed along the way.